From the headquarters of FtS English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefanía Bravo, and this is From the South. We begin with the news of another social leader killed in Colombia, with now over 160 activists killed in the country this year alone. 25-year-old social leader Lady Correa Valle has been found dead in Colombia after going missing on Wednesday. She was the secretary for her village community action board. Social organizations have called for the protection of social leaders so that the peace process can be fully implemented. People in Colombia are working on a campaign to demand the government stop the murder of social leaders. They are also asking for the peace accords to be implemented.
Social movements and human rights organizations are working on a campaign called I Will Take Care of You. It seeks to demand the government of Iván Duque to guarantee the life of social leaders and the peace agreement.
Let's hope the government makes a commitment to respect for the life of the leaders threatened. We cannot end this violence and this constant abuse of human rights.
Young people in Colombia are hoping to raise awareness on the killing of social leaders. They want those living in the cities to support the communities around the country.
We want to highlight how this conflict is being handled, how the social leaders are defending their territory and are being killed because of this. They're also threatened and displaced. It looks like after the signing of the peace agreement, a new wave of violence is directly affecting the leaders of the region.
The killings of social leaders have rose in the first month of President Iván Duque's administration. 22 people have been threatened, but the president has not taken any actions.
We are not going to allow what happened in the 90s with internal conflict to happen again. We are here to raise our voices. We want to show that what is happening in our country matters, especially regarding the killing of social leaders.
Different artists have joined the campaign to raise awareness through music and poetry.
Music has been our instrument to give love, to teach, to share. That is why for us it is very important. Through music and art, relations become more human and people can express a lot of things that they have inside.
Music can fuel transformations. I think art can help peace in Colombia.
With this campaign, hundreds of Colombians are remembering the 465 social leaders that have been killed so far.
Colombia's High Commissioner for Peace said that they are continuing efforts to see that swift release of 6 people held by the National Liberation Army. The High Commissioner Miguel Ceballos says that he knows, quote, the liberation is taking place with the invaluable support of the Catholic Church and the Ombudsman Office. According to the government, the ELN has at least 17 people captive. President Duque says it will only renew peace talks with the armed group once all hostages are freed. And members of the ELN insist they want to find a political solution to the conflict. The armed group says it is committed to continue with the peace talks started by the previous government. They highlight that military presence is the main obstacle for the release of those being held. On the economy, Colombians are also expressing their discontent about the policies of the Iván Duque-led government, which are hitting the poor the hardest. While there is no budget for education, pension subsidies, or public health, the government has announced tax reductions for companies.
The increase in value-added tax for basic products was one of the deficit-reducing policies Minister Alberto Carrasquilla announced.
I hope that they don't increase taxes on vegetables or rice. We are poor and we can't afford that for our whole family.
They will affect vulnerable families if he adds taxes to things that didn't have them before.
This would harm thousands of campesinos who work hard every day to sell their products. It would also hurt millions of Colombians without enough income to even pay these extra taxes.
People won't buy fruits and vegetables anymore if VAT increase.
Citizens say it is unacceptable that taxes are being lowered for entrepreneurs. At the same time, the government announced there is neither a budget for education nor health subsidies. No doubt the poor would be the hardest hit.
They want to increase taxes for the middle class, and as Carrasquilla announced, on basic products.
This means that they will make the workers pay for this millionaire bill. This will surely increase poverty.
De tal manera que lo que le van a quitar.
Some analysts say Alberto Carrasquilla represents the interest of Colombians' neoliberalism. He privatized different companies during his time as minister under Álvaro Uribe's government.
Es un hombre que está acostumbrado a trabajar para el capital.
This man is used to working for capitalism, against the workers. Everything he does worsens inequality. He will always support these kinds of measures.
Conducen a profundizar en la desigualdad.
Social investment will be affected. However, wars surely won't, and big companies' budgets will remain unaffected.
No toquen los que tienen dividendos.
They won't touch Colombia's business sector. They also won't touch the riches of the Artila Lule or Sarmiento Angulo families. They protect the rich.
Sarmiento Angulo y tantos otros.
Al otro día estaba el avión.
Different social sectors say Duque's right-wing policies only serve to increase inequality and poverty. That's why they will take to the streets to protest the tax reform proposed by the National Treasury Minister.
Venezuelan Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza is at the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. Michelle Bachelet and Jorge Arreaza both have agreed on working on new cooperation agreements. They were set to discuss the Venezuelan migration flow in Latin America. The new High Commissioner had previously said she was concerned about the situation that has provoked tensions in the region.
Expert Alfred Desayas says the efficient continuation of Venezuela's model guarantees respect for human rights, despite the economic blockades and media campaigns against it. Desayas says, and I quote, "I witnessed elimination of illiteracy, free education from elementary school to college, extreme poverty reduction programs, free housing for the most vulnerable sectors or homeless people, gradual elimination of privileges and discrimination, and free quality health care for everyone." Desayas confirms a multi-form, integral aggression against Venezuela's economy caused by the so-called sanctions, which are not so, because the United States is not in the moral position to sanction anyone. These are repressive, unilateral measures, out of the framework of international public law, meant to force a change of regime.
Our correspondent Eduardo Marín is in Geneva and brings us more.
Saludos desde Ginebra, desde la sede de Naciones Unidas.
The 39th session of the UN Human Rights Council has taken place with Michelle Bachelet as the head of the High Commission for Human Rights. In the session, Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza defended his country. During his speech, he presented a report from an expert that visited Venezuela in 2017 and concluded in his study that the country is facing an economic crisis, not a humanitarian one. The report also explained that the crisis is provoked by the blockade imposed by the United States and the European Union. Arreaza also met with Michelle Bachelet and said he hopes the relations between Venezuela and the UN High Commission for Human Rights improve. Jorge Arreaza is expected to intervene in the second day of sessions. He is also expected to meet with representatives of the African Union and the ALBA Group.
Thank you, Edu, for your report. And the people affected by the Chevron environmental disaster in Ecuador have rejected the ruling in The Hague, which found the company not at fault. Ecuadorian courts had already ruled in favor of the communities, stating that the highest duty of the state is to guarantee the effective enforcement of human rights.
On the 6th of September, the Court of Arbitration in The Hague ruled in favor of the company Chevron and declared Ecuador guilty of violating a bilateral investment treaty. The people affected by Chevron have since announced they will continue with their struggle, supported by several environmental and social organizations who also reject the ruling.
As an indigenous people, are worried and are calling on the whole country to resist, because we have been fighting for 25 years and we can't allow the state to interfere and negotiate in our name.
It's a shame to see that through the legal actions of the state, the work we have been doing for 25 years could be reduced to nothing.
The Ecuadorian government says they will appeal the Hague's ruling and they will defend the rights of the affected communities. The community's defense team has said that it is inadmissible for a court of arbitration to order a state to annul a verdict in a trial involving private individuals which have been ratified.
The Ecuadorian government has an obligation to defend our rights and to demand that the arbitration award be overturned. They should start an international campaign with the peoples of the world to change the game, and they should do it now.
For some analysts, this ruling could further harm communities. They also question the announcement of the Ecuadorian General Attorney, who made the ruling public and who criticized the judicial system of Ecuador.
One of the decisions states that Ecuador must commit to not allowing the implementation of the earlier judgments won by those affected. This decision means not enforcing what the courts decided, and that is obviously terrible for the communities, because it leaves them defenseless and unable to obtain what they want in those trials.
For the people affected by Chevron, this ruling revives bilateral investment treaties for the supposed protection of investment, which in fact aim to protect the transnationals. They also announced they will continue with their struggle and also will go to international courts in order to defend their rights. Denise Herrera, Telesur, Ecuador.
And former Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva's lawyers will ask the Supreme Court for an extension to name a substitute presidential candidate. Lula's legal team says the UN has reaffirmed his political rights should be respected. They want to present this recommendation in court.
At the moment, we are leaving the Federal Police Headquarters, and we have received on our phones the UN General Committee's new decision, reaffirming Lula's candidacy must be ensured by all Brazilian authorities, both judicial, legislative, and executive.
And hundreds of supporters of former Brazilian president are camping outside the prison in Curitiba, where he is being held. They say they will remain there until the leader is released. The former president has communicated with them via messages and letters. Demonstrators say he often asks them to sing for him. And Brazilian presidential candidate Jair Bolsonaro needs further surgery after he was stabbed at a campaign rally September 6. The Einstein Hospital in Sao Paulo said that doctors need to repair a hole in his intestine. Bolsonaro was attacked at a political rally and most likely won't be able to resume campaigning before the elections in October. We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
So yeah, national security is one of the most powerful notions in modern times. To swindle, I think, people, to do things that are not in their best interest, and to support massive military complexes that are not in anybody's interest, but that are like cancers feeding on society.
Watch a series where the U.S. geopolitical strategies as an empire representing the culture of war and propaganda are shown, and how this has served as a tool of social control. Psy-War. Saturday. Only on Telesur.
Welcome back. A memorial has been held in Argentina to pay tribute to the victims of backstreet abortions. This comes 1 month after the Senate rejected the bill on its legalization. The group of women remembered 3 women who have died during this month. They also remembered 19-year-old Ana Maria Acevedo, who was denied an abortion despite being raped. They say women like Ana Maria are the real victims of last month's vote. To discuss this further, we were joined live by Nancy Medina, a lawyer who specializes in gender issues. She says poor women are the most vulnerable groups regarding sexual and reproductive rights in the region. But she is optimistic about feminist movement's ability to change this situation.
While women have been criminalized in Latin America, forbidden their human rights to access to abortion and access to sexual and reproductive rights. And this criminalization also affects to one of the more vulnerable groups in society as poor women, because not only because the criminalization, but because of they doesn't have access to their rights to health, for example. What happened here in Argentina is totally positive because despite we don't have the law approved by the Chamber of Senate, we visualize the movement of feminism in the country and in the region.
Thousands of public workers have started an open-ended strike in Costa Rica to protest a fiscal reform. Some hospitals and schools have closed down, although government officials say they will guarantee the functioning of public services. Here's our correspondent in San Jose with more.
An indefinite general strike was organized by public workers' unions from different sectors, from municipalities to public schools. On its first day, there were important demonstrations in different municipalities, including the capital city. The protesters gathered outside the Legislative Assembly building to ask the Assembly members to get rid of the fiscal reform draft, which is currently being revised. They also demanded for creation of a negotiation commission to talk to members of every public sector in order to find a solution for Costa Rica's fiscal debt.
And a member of Mauricio Macri's government may be involved in an embezzlement scandal in Argentina. The current head of the cabinet, Marcos Peña, is being named in an investigation by Argentine media. He's accused of using public funds to finance Macri's 2015 campaign. The report combed through at least 4,000 emails as part of their investigation.
A mediano y largo plazo de generar empleo y desarrollo para todos los rincones de nuestro país.
And Argentina's President Mauricio Macri not only has to face discontent over his austerity policies, but he is now seeking support from governors as they face a debate in Congress to approve the country's budget. Let's hear from our correspondent Edgardo Esteban in Buenos Aires.
Te saludo y también saludamos a toda la audiencia de Telesur en este día lunes, Juan Carlos, y como bien decís,
it's a busy week for Macri. He has to keep markets at ease. And now he has to face the debate on the budget that will take place in Congress in the coming days. He's been meeting with governors to obtain their support for this debate. Now, he also has to fight the general strike called for on September 25th. He is trying to negotiate an agreement with some of the workers' unions that will take part. The State Workers' Union will protest the reduction of 23 ministries that have become 10. They also say they expect 37,000 state workers to be laid off due to the austerity policies by the end of the year. On top of that, teachers have also organized a general strike. It's turning out to be a crucial week for Argentinians.
Thank you, Edgardo, for your information. And Bolivia's largest multi-megawatt solar park is now operating. It was inaugurated by President Evo Morales over the weekend. The solar power plant in Uyuni has the capacity to generate 60 megawatts. That's enough to supply half of the energy needed for the people living in the region. The government invested around $62 million in the project.
And now, at maximum capacity, we have 1,500 megawatts of domestic demand, but we are generating 2,100 megawatts. We have an excess of energy. A moment ago, our energy minister was saying that we're getting prepared to export, and we're installing the power supply from Bolivia to Argentina. Hopefully, we will have time so that next year we can be exporting 100 megawatts to Argentina.
Hundreds have protested in St. Lucia against what they say are the government's failed policies. Opposition leader Philippe Pierre organized the march to protest what he calls poor governance in the country. The government has been facing industrial action by custom officers. There have also been notices of strike action issued by the St. Lucia Electricity Services and workers of St. Jude Hospital.
Right now we are being overwhelmed in St. Lucia
by so many issues related to the development of the country, and the government and the direction that they're going seems to be very much driven by sort of a capitalistic enterprise, which is driven about privatization of the healthcare sector, privatization of the printry, privatization of a number of different institutions. And so we're seeing a lot of the government services being closed off, like the radio station.
Caribbean countries are on alert as Hurricane Isaac approaches the area. The National Hurricane Center says after weakening somewhat, Isaac is expected to return to hurricane strength in the coming hours. It is heading towards the Lesser Antilles and is then expected to cross the eastern Caribbean Sea. Meanwhile, Florence has been upgraded to a Category 4 hurricane over the Atlantic. It could make landfall along the east coast of the United States on Thursday. This would be the most powerful storm to make aim at the U.S. mainland this year. Dominicans are learning about their cultural heritage with the help of the Long Night in the Museums event. This year's edition was inspired by youth and folklore.
The Long Night in the Museums event is promoting arts and culture once again in the country.
All the museums are open until midnight. We have different activities in every floor, with music, living statues, and theaters. This is a cultural night.
People can also take guided tours to the historical places and enjoy concerts, workshops, dance presentations, and exhibitions.
We have used the Long Night at the museums event to encourage people to visit their museums. Most of the times, our visitors are students and tourists, but this event brings different audiences to the museums.
This year's edition was inspired in the youth and the World Day of Folklore.
We learned about traditional instruments and their importance in Dominican culture. People from other countries can also value the story of our country.
The event was launched 10 years ago, but now people can enjoy it 4 times a year. This is an invitation to discover the beauty of the Dominican Republic and its rich heritage.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
Telesur brings you special interviews with social and political personalities. Monday, from Washington. Tuesday, from Mexico. Wednesday, from Caracas. Thursday, from Quito. Friday, from Havana. Analysis about our continent's reality. Weekdays, only on Telesur. An occasion to enjoy the cultural diversity that defines our South American essence. Come along to find out the story behind these personalities, traditions, and artistic expressions that unite us as a whole. Real Lives. Saturdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Troops on either side of the Ethiopia-Eritrea borders are said to be dismantling borders and clearing roads to allow for movements of persons. Reports state that the breaking down of defense lines is in preparation for the opening of the border on Tuesday. It marks the first day of the 2011 Ethiopian New Year. The United States has threatened to arrest and sanction International Criminal Court judges if they move to charge any U.S. citizens who served in Afghanistan with war crimes. National Security Advisor John Bolton made the announcement referring to the ICC investigation into such alleged war crimes. The probe is due to begin soon.
We will ban its judges and prosecutors from entering the United States. We will sanction their funds in the U.S. financial system, and we will prosecute them in the U.S. criminal system. We will do the same for any company or state that assists an ICC investigation of Americans.
And Cape Town is hosting the first artificial intelligence conference in Africa. Cutting-edge technology to gather data, software for facial recognition, and security devices are the conference's main innovations. Attendees will also debate on the ethics of artificial intelligence and the risk of automatization. And with that, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, you can find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And join us on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.
An occasion to enjoy the cultural